Okay, so Nothing showed off the Nothing Phone 2 today, the sequel to Nothing Phone 1. I've got one here and I've been using it for the past 2 weeks, and in almost every way, this phone has been refined and bumped up a notch. Sort of like the S upgrades that Apple used to do, meaning that while there are a handful of thoughtful upgrades and refinements, most of the phone has stayed the same, which is to say very good. So not only are we still getting the transparent back and the glyphs and the matte aluminum frame, we also get 15 watts of wireless charging with 5 watts of reverse charging. I was actually able to charge my iPhone, which is pretty funny. We're also getting an in-screen fingerprint reader with face unlock, a 1080p 120Hz OLED display with LTPO, and dual SIM slots, all of which we got last year for £399 or roughly $500 US. And this year, with the slightly bumped price to now $600, we get some extra features. What are these features, you may be asking? Well, I'm glad you asked. By the way, I've posted the full unboxing video over on my Instagram where you can check out this brand new Nothing branded USB-C cable. So definitely check that out. My Instagram is @JoshuaChang. If you want to throw me a follow, I will get you a donut. Just kidding, I won't. But yeah, let's talk about all of the S upgrades that the Phone 2 has gotten. From the outside, you'll see that the glyph layout has slightly changed. The camera glyph, which is around the camera module, and the main glyph around the charging coils are now broken up into sections. There are some mixed opinions out there. Some people liked how the main glyph was one continuous strip in Phone 1, and I think I tend to agree. I think it looks a little bit cleaner. But now, since it's split up, we do get some better implementations for loading bars for things like changing the phone's volume and having that visualized with your up and down rockers, or even setting a glyph timer, which is perfect if you want to have your phone down and do some heads down work for time blocking. By the way, this glyph timer is separate from a regular timer, so in order to access it, you do have to dig through some settings. Kind of feel like this could be a toggle in just the default clock app. We also get some third-party support, so currently you can use glyph loading bars with Uber. So imagine a progress bar for when the driver will arrive at your location. Sort of reminds me of the Dynamic Island, in which there's sort of this period where hardware software integrated feature is going to take some time for third-party apps to take advantage of. And these sorts of features, I guess you would call it, at its best, it does have its own use cases, which tend to be very situational, and at its worst, you could call it a gimmick or a party trick or like a marketing tool. I tend to put the glyphs somewhere in the middle of all of that. Not exactly a gimmick, but also not super useful at the same time. Most of the time, my phone is face up, so I do have to consciously remind myself to put my phone face down. Now, some other physical changes you'll notice right off the bat: the flash module is now dual tone, so you get better flash photos. The red recording indicator light is now a thin slit instead of a dot on the back, and the hole punch selfie camera has been shifted to the center. But then the change that I noticed immediately when I first picked up the phone is this new pillowed glass back with this rounded bubble profile. It actually feels really nice and comfortable in your hands, and what's nice is that you don't get that digging feeling you get with most squared off phones. In fact, I'm just gonna say it, this is probably the most comfortable phone I've ever held, and despite its big screen, it doesn't actually feel like that much of a big phone, which is nice. So the ergonomics of Phone 2 are really good. I like it a lot. Now, this screen is really good. It's bumped slightly in size, so we get a 6.7-inch OLED with a peak brightness of 1600 nits, which is bigger and brighter than last year's model. Still getting an adaptive 120Hz LTPO display, which feels really smooth and responsive, and a 1080p resolution with 394 ppi, which I guess is slightly below average. You can't really tell unless you get really close, and even then it still looks pretty good. There's also a bigger battery now, 4700 milliamp hours, up from 4500 milliamp hours. Now, Phone 1 already had pretty good battery, but Phone 2 I think is even better. Phone 2 is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, so the new generation of Snapdragon chips. And with a Plus model, it's a little more efficient, so you'll notice that with the battery life. I was getting about 2 days of light to medium use. Also slightly bumped is the fast charging. So we have 45 watt fast charging, which will get your phone fully charged in 55 minutes compared to last year's 33 watt charging, which will get your phone charged in 70 minutes. Now, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to talk much more about the cameras until Wednesday, Wednesday. So if you want to check out some camera shots, I'll be posting those over on my Instagram. But yeah, we're still getting a modest 2-camera setup on the back with regular and ultra wide lenses, both still at 50 megapixels, although now with new updated Sony sensors. The front selfie camera also gets a slight bump from 16 to 32 megapixels, also with an updated Sony sensor as well. All I'm gonna say without getting in trouble is don't expect too much from the cameras, although they are very impressive for the price. And in some instances, I did actually prefer the image over my iPhone 14 Pro. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, clearly a lot of physical hardware improvements to the phone that make it feel a little more refined and premium. But then on the other side of the book, we get the much hyped Nothing OS 2.0, which shipped with this phone, and I got to play around with it. And for the most part, it still does lean on stock Android for a lot of it, but does have a couple of neat changes and new apps that make the phone feel more like a Nothing experience. So we're still getting the custom recorder app, which looks absolutely insane. But additionally, we're getting the weather app, which everything about this app just screams Nothing to me, from the ridiculous dot matrix icons to the monotype fonts to these very minimalist graphics. On the home screen, you also get custom icons for folders now, which are pretty neat, and you can also change the size of them. There's also this new Composer app, which has a bunch of sound packs where you can create your own glyphs and ringtones. Then there's some new widgets that look pretty sweet, and we finally get lock screen widgets, although in its current form, it's not very helpful at all. There's a lot of redundant information in these widgets like time, date, and weather, all of which are already on the lock screen. So it'd be nice to see something like, I guess, a calendar widget. One thing I like is this Tesla integration in the control center. So you can tap on this icon to bring up some quick access controls. But overall, Nothing OS 2.0 still does rely on a lot of stock Google apps like Google Calendar, Google Messaging, Google Photos, and a lot of popular apps like in this icon pack don't have custom icons like Messenger, Notion, something that definitely annoys me and breaks the aesthetic of the home screen. I'd say the foundation and structure of Nothing OS is there. They just sort of have to build it out further. So yeah, overall a pretty solid upgrade from Nothing Phone 1. Nothing crazy, just minor upgrades here and there. Like I said, sort of reminds me of an S upgrade from the iPhones. Is this a good phone? Yeah, I'd say so. I liked using it a lot. It's got one of the coolest party tricks, like using the glyph lights for a fill light for night photos. That always gets good reactions. It's also got all of the core features to make for a great smartphone 2023, like a solid display, good battery life, and a good chipset. Now in the price bracket of around $450 to $600, you've got the Pixel 7 and 7a, both of which are cheaper and have better cameras and better software, but also they have a smaller 90 Hz display, which I guess is compromised. There's also the Samsung Galaxy A54, an overall solid package at a really good price, an even bigger battery, expandable storage, and all of the Samsung features. So yeah, some good competitors in the space, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. I'd say the main strength of the Nothing phone is just the aesthetics. This thing looks completely unique and different from any other phone on the market. But what do you guys think? How did I do on my first Android phone video? Did I absolutely butcher it? Let me know down below. Consider subscribing for more tech content. Leave a like on your way out. And again, check out my Instagram. I'd love to connect with you guys there. All right, see you guys in the next one. Peace.